Hello, my name is Gabriel Seville, and today I'll be giving my persuasive speech on gun control, um, how it affects everyday people, how the laws have changed it over time, and my personal opinion on it. The sites that I used in my speech are Forbes.com, ATF.gov, TheDailySignal.com, and Perspectives.com. Gun control is something that has been debated for years and years. It's a major disagreement between everyday people and different political parties, and the argument is still at large today. So first of all, I'm going to talk about some of the laws that have changed gun control over time. In 1791, the Bill of Rights was passed, including the Second Amendment, which states that every person is allowed to own a firearm. And that is one of the major documents that supports having guns today. In 1934, FDR passed the National Firearm Act, which taxed anyone who sold or manufactured guns, and anyone who owned a gun had to register with the state. In the Gun Control Act of 1968 required that no one could own a gun that wasn't used for hunting purposes, so you couldn't own machine guns, obviously. You could only own hunting weapons. And in 1993, the Brady Handgun Prevention Act provided background checks to be required to own a gun. So it was supposed to help criminals not get guns, or terrorists or anything like that, to help prevent that. And these acts and laws all show that gun control has changed over time, and people have taken steps to change it and to make it better. Now I'm going to be talking about my personal opinion on it and what I feel about it, and just what I think about it. Picture this. You are a gas station worker behind a counter, and you're working alone, and a guy with a ski mask comes in and tells you to empty the register, and he points a gun at you. You don't have a gun, so you can't do anything about it, and you can't call the police because he's pointing his gun at you. So he gets away with the money, and you have to call the police to go get him, and maybe he won't even get caught. If you had a gun, you could have prevented this situation. Studies show that if the person being robbed or attacked has a weapon, most of the time criminals will back off, because the criminals, they don't want to get hurt, they don't want to get shot, they don't want any conflict. They just want to get in and get out a lot of the time. And even if you never fire the weapon, even if it isn't even lethal, you can still get an attacker to get off you. He will run away. Not always, but a lot of the time that's what will happen. Because of this, 2 million crimes are prevented a year by guns, and that's because sometimes you can't always rely on the police to get there in time. You can't always rely on people to be there when you need there. Sometimes things happen in the moment, and you have to act right then and there. And people, like citizens who own guns and have concealed carry permits, they prevented those attacks and saved lives. And while not everyone likes having guns, if you don't like having guns, I think it's fine. You can just not have a gun, but everyone should be allowed to have the right to defend themselves with a gun, because it's part of their freedom, and they're given that right in the Second Amendment. I think that's just a given right as a whole. As a person, you should just be able to defend your family, and guns are the great equalizer. So the only way to stop someone with a gun is with a gun. So a person with a gun, an armed citizen with a concealed carry permit, can ward off an attacker and save lives. So those are just some of the reasons why I think that people should just have guns, and that gun control, while it is needed in some ways, I don't think people should take away guns entirely. Now I'm going to be talking about some of the arguments that pro-gun control people have, and I'm just going to be talking about them. So my first argument is that some people say that the Second Amendment is for militia only. And while in some part that may be true, I still don't think that's completely true, because back then and for centuries, this is not a new thing. People have been allowed to carry weapons, carry guns. In the Revolutionary War times, it was very common for families to have more than one rifle. Like, it was very common for people throughout the centuries, even in the 1800s as well. They always had weapons inside the house, and they could protect their families, because you couldn't always count on local enforcement or the army to save you. You have to save yourself, and a lot of the time there was no local enforcement anyway, so you had to protect your own family, and that was up to you. Having guns is not some new thing. People have had them for a long time. It says that people say that taking away guns will stop criminals from obtaining them. Well, that isn't true. It might stop some criminals for a little bit of time, but eventually they're criminals, right? They're always going to be breaking the law. They're going to find a way to manufacture weapons, because there are ways to do it. And when they do figure that out, everyone else is going to be in trouble, right? Because they won't be able to have guns. So when those situations do arise, more people are going to get hurt, more people are going to get stolen from. It's going to happen. Some people won't be able to protect themselves. And that's simply how it is. Someone with a gun is the only way to stop another person with a gun for a normal everyday person in most cases. They say that taking away guns will lower the crime rate, and that relates to my earlier point. I think that that's possible for a little bit, but once people are able to manufacture guns as a whole, it's going to become a lot more mainstream, and people are going to be able to figure that out, and then the everyday people won't be able to do anything about it. And in conclusion, I think that guns are a good thing. Everyone has the right to defend themselves. I think some regulations are good, background checks, bump stocks. I think those things are okay. I think people should be allowed to hunt with their guns. I think everyone has the right to defend their family and their home and the stuff that they care about with a gun, to stop people. And even if you don't ever use it, it's still alright to have one, in my opinion. So that's my issue on gun control, and thank you for listening.